Welcome to Stars of Service. I'm your host, Brian Christensen. You've all heard of the term honor flights. Today, we are joined by Mike Stubs, who is a Purple Heart recipient and also a board member of the Queen City Honor Flight. Mike, you were in the Army,
Yes, sir.
and can you, first of all, before we get into the honor flight, uh, can you just talk about your service?
Well, I entered the Army in June of 1966. 19 years old, just 1 year out of high school. Never heard of Vietnam. It was so amazing. It was never talked about when I was in high school or anything of that sort. Got drafted. I actually did something that didn't want to tell anybody in my family until I was laying up in the hospital at Fort Bragg after they brought me home from my wounds from Vietnam. That's when I informed my family that I actually volunteered for the draft. I had a job at Western Electric. It was okay. I wasn't crazy about it. I
Right.
said, can't be any worse. I volunteered for the draft. But I did find out it could be worse. So I learned, be careful what you volunteer for.
Careful with which
Right.
you wish for. Um, you were wounded.
Yes,
What?
sir. Three
So
times. Yeah.
3
Yeah.
times.
3 times. But I went in, like I said, in June of 66, Fort Jackson. Left there, went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, where I went through basic training. From there, I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana.
I've
Which
been there. That's hot.
Oh, well, let me tell you, I had a unique name for Fort Polk. I call it Fort Puke Lousy. Whatever the good Lord had left over, he put in Louisiana. Because it was just like Vietnam. They had what they call Tigerland. That's where you went for infantry training. So I went through that. Right after that, I had a little short leave, went home for a week or so. Then I shipped out to Vietnam. Got to Vietnam in November of 66. Went to Alpha Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Infantry, 1st Infantry Division. And I started out as a rifleman. When you start out, they don't know what your capabilities are.
Right.
They got to find out.
Yeah.
And I only carried a rifle for a couple of weeks. Next thing I know, I'm carrying an M60 machine gun. I'm a machine gunner.
Wow.
And then in the 1st of April,
Which is that picture, by the way, right?
yes, that is me holding the machine gun. And the ironic story about that, I was a squad leader then. I'd already been promoted to sergeant. But we'd been on a mission, lost a couple of men. They brought us into a base camp. We'd been in the jungle a little over a week. And they knew we needed a break.
Right.
And as you can see, I'm not the cleanest looking person in that picture. I mean, probably hadn't had a bath for over a week. Well, we landed there on the choppers, let us out. Next thing I know, all of my men are taking their steel pots off, throwing their packs down, their weapons down. I walked over and picked up the M60 because it was filthy. I said, fellas, you don't take another bite till every one of you clean your weapons, especially
Right.
this. That's the main weapon
Yeah.
for an infantry platoon. And I wanted it clean because even though they were giving us an overnight break,
Right.
we could have been called out the next hour having to go back out into the jungle again because of something going
And
on.
if it's messy, it can
Right.
get jammed, and then you
Yeah,
don't have a defense mechanism.
exactly. But I went from there, like I said, I was only in the Army like 7 months. When actually 8 months, I was promoted to sergeant, become a squad leader,
Oh, wow.
infantry squad leader, and also I was a little guy. And tunnel rat in 66 was a volunteer thing. Did not have to go. You couldn't make a man go in the tunnel because some guys couldn't handle it. And
What do you mean couldn't handle it?
well, the stress,
Right.
claustrophobic. I mean, the tunnels are small. I mean, you had to be small like me to go in anyway.
Right.
They were not big because the Vietnamese people were they're
How many of these tunnels are we talking?
they had tunnels everywhere. Some areas had more complex tunnels. These tunnels were created back when the Vietnamese, the VC, the Viet Cong, and so on, the NVA were fighting the French back in the 50s. That's when they started creating most of these tunnels.
Oh, wow.
They lived in these tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
It was just incredible because they could take these tunnels and they were dry, just like at nighttime. I'd take my squad out on an ambush at nighttime. Monsoon season, pouring down rain. I mean, it rains like you wouldn't believe during monsoon. And it's hot, it's humid. And see, you couldn't carry anything to cover up to stay dry because you carry a poncho. Poncho sound like a tin roof, rain hitting on that.
Yes.
That's all they could hear.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd let guys carry a poncho line, wrap it around you, but it gets soaking wet.
Right.
And the worst thing about it, when the rain stopped, usually around midnight, you could basically set your watch to how this rain works during the monsoon.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, mosquitoes would show up. And I'll tell you, some of those mosquitoes, I was scared that 2 or 3 of them was going to pick me up and carry me off. They were healthy mosquitoes. But continued doing that. I got a minor shrapnel wound in April. And then I was involved in one really big major battle on June the 17th of 67, Battle of Zombo 2. Got shrapnel there, but, we lost guys.
Yeah.
And what I liked about the 1st Infantry Division, you had to go back to the rear and be treated by a doctor. Well, I wasn't going to leave my men. So the medics worked on me, and I wasn't that bad.
Right.
And then continued doing things on several operations. I only had like 20 days left on my tour when I got my 3rd wound. I was shot in the neck and sprayed with shrapnel.
You were shot in the neck.
Shot in the neck, sprayed with shrapnel.
Where?
Right here. That's where it went in, and they had kept me open to get it out and so on. So I'm a lucky person. I know that. Because a few days later, I was always the point squad. I was with Alpha Company when I first started out. But what they wanted to do with the infantry battalions, you had Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie infantry company. And then they decided they wanted to add a 4th infantry company to each of the battalions with the big red one. So they brought Delta. What they did with Delta Company, they came over on a ship. Took them 30 days to get to Vietnam. The whole company came over on a ship. The company commander, all the men involved with the company, the privates, the sergeants, whatever. The 1st sergeant, everybody came over on this ship. Well, I had a company commander. Actually, he had been a sergeant 1st class. His name was Clark Welch. And he was over the recon platoon. Well, they promoted Clark Welch straight from sergeant 1st class to 1st lieutenant. He was that sharp. He was a soldier's soldier.
A battlefield commission.
Commission.
Where you go from NCO to officer.
To officer. And they skipped 2nd lieutenant, went straight to 1st lieutenant.
Wow.
He was going to be the company commander for Delta Company. Well, Alpha Company's company commander had just rotated out. So they give Clark Welch Alpha Company. They told him, you would not keep Alpha Company. You will be over Delta when Delta arrives. So he had to go to Cameron Bay and met when they got to the ship arrived in Cameron Bay with the Delta Company personnel. Well, him and 1st Sergeant Barrow met them. And there was a captain, Captain George, who was actually from Spartanburg, South Carolina, who I'll tell you a little bit more about him. But they got off the ship, and he thought he was going to have a Delta Company. Well, Clark Welch said, no, you will not have Delta. Delta is my company. You will be going to Alpha Company, which was the best thing to do anyway, because all these guys they were green, never been in Vietnam.
Green meaning brand new to the service.
A lot of them brand new, never had any experience.
Yeah.
So what they decided to do is they told Clark Welch to pick so many sergeants from Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, basically 3 from each.
Right.
And I was one of them. He picked to go with him to Delta Company. We had to set these men up and get them ready for combat. It really worked out good. So we trained them for just a little over. They got there in July.
Right.
Late July. So we trained them for about 2 to 3 weeks, not quite a month. And then we started doing missions and things of that sort. So then on October the 8th, we went out to the field. And we were in an area never been called the Hobo Woods, Iron Triangle. Nobody had ever been in that area before. They knew it was heavily populated with the Viet Cong and some NVA regulars. So the 8th, we went to our area, set up our NDP night defensive positions. And the next morning, we were going on a search and destroy. Well, that evening...
And that means what you said, search
and destroy.
Yeah.
That evening, Clark Welch called me and Luther Smith to his area because we had a little 1st lieutenant who, he was green. And they tell the lieutenants when they get there, you listen to your sergeants. They're the ones that's going to know what the job is. They're going to be the ones to save your life.
Right.
But he talked with us and told us that next morning we were going on a search and destroy, that our platoon, 1st platoon, would be the lead platoon, and that I would be the point squad leader on the search and destroy. So I'd be out in front of everybody. So we were in this area, and we started out. They did something unique that day. They put 3 Chew Hoys signed onto my squad. Chew Hoys were ex-Viet Cong that had turned over to the south.
Right.
And to the Arvin side. And I had only one of them speak a little bit of English, so I kept him with me and my RTO.
Translators.
Yeah, my RTO.
That knew the area.
Right. And my radio transmitter operator. So we're going to cut down some trails and stuff like that. And one of them stopped. There was a wire across the trail. They had booby trapped a 500-pound bomb. that had been dropped by our planes that didn't go off.
500
500. But people think about 500-pound bomb. I know people can't sue us, but it's not that huge. It's only about like this, but it's the weight of it. It's just
Yeah.
so solid. But we marked it so the demolition people could come later and destroy that. But we come to a big opening in the jungle, about the size of a 3 football. And I called back to Clark West, told him what we had come to. And I said, I'll make a recommendation. I'm going to take my squad. We're going to cross this opening. We'll be the guinea pigs in case they've got a position there set up, observation post, set up looking to see if anybody's coming or what's going on. And I recommend you take, because it was Alpha and Bravo companies was with, Bravo was also with Delta company. Delta was in the lead with Bravo following. I recommend you take Delta and Bravo companies. You go around the edge of the jungle, stay in the edge of the jungle and come around. We'll meet you on the other side, because that way they don't see the size of our force, know what we got. So we crossed the opening and ran my men out. We found a place where they'd had an observation post where nobody was there, thank goodness. We'd gone in the jungle about 30 yards. All of a sudden, we saw 3 BC. They were getting ready to chop wood. If they'd have done it, we would have heard them. But they had not started. They started running. Well, I called back to Clark West to him and said, I've got contact. I'm going after them so they cannot set up an ambush. Well, what they did, they started setting up a hasty ambush. So we walked in. One of the Charlies stood up right in front of my point man.
And your point man is the person in
he's
front.
in the very front. First, you had your point man, then they had my grenadier, then they had myself and my RTO. And they both froze. My point man, I opened up, killed the BC that was getting ready to shoot my point man. And next thing, everything just broke loose. We had the automatic weapons, claymores, grenades going off, and I was one of the first ones hit. Because it knocked me, it hit me, knocked me back, knocked me down to the ground. I'm laying there for a minute, sitting up.
Getting yourself back to, yeah.
I got back up and started. I won't go into detail.
Yeah,
I've got a story here if you'd like to read it about what I did. That won't go into all that detail, but I had myself and 7 of my men wounded. No, I didn't lose a man that day.
Oh.
What's so bad about this? 8 days later, they're in the same area. And what I went into was a Viet Cong supply base camp. 8 days later, they're on a search and destroy, and 144 of our men walked into 1,400.
Welcome back to Stars of Service. I'm your host, Brian Christensen. Today we are joined by Mike Stubs, who is a board member for the Queen City Honor Flight. How often do you all get to do these honor flights?
At one time, we were doing 2 a year. Now we're doing 1 flight a year, usually in the fall. This year's flight will be October the 10th.
How long have you been involved with this?
Oh, gosh, I've been involved several years. I think this is like I can't even remember. It's either 8th or 9th flight coming up.
You said 2 things during our last segment that my ears perked up a little bit. You said when you all had gotten to a camp and everyone kind of just began to relax and you looked at the weapons and you were like, we need to clean these up. We need to clean these up and take care of what we need to before we start. That really hit me because here you are as a board member for the honor flight here in Charlotte. Did you see? Have you thought about that as far as the leadership that goes with that? As far as from back then to now, because you've got quite the resume.
Oh, very, very much so, because the reason I love this, when I came home from Vietnam, I actually lost friends because of what I had done in Vietnam. It was just so different for the Vietnam veterans and the Korean veterans, the same way.
Right.
When we came home, you didn't talk about anything. You didn't tell anybody anything. You didn't even want people to know you'd been in Vietnam because some of the things that were going on, the things that they were saying about people. And it was just, people were almost cruel, just the way they were treating the veterans. You just kept it inside. Vietnam veterans at that time just did not join these organizations. You didn't feel accepted. And joined the military with the Purple Heart. Next thing I know, I'm starting to get involved, and I started doing we had a commander, he moved to Louisiana. Well, somebody had to take the chapter over, and they said, "Mike, you're the one to do it." I said, "I don't want to do it." I took it over 15 years ago, and I started doing speeches and presentations, and that's when I started, you know, telling my stories. And
What
I
did that do to you, though?
oh, it just released. It took 1,000 pounds off my shoulder. Because I tell veterans, when I do speeches at Memorial Day, I do speeches on Veterans Day, and they have special speeches because I want to talk to the veterans, even on the honor flight
Right.
at the Vietnam veterans at the wall.
Yeah.
I do a speech, a presentation to all, which we're one of the only honor flights that do that. Basically, I didn't say this, but we're not supposed to be really doing that. The understanding we have, but we do it because
Right.
it is so well accepted and appreciated. Because these veterans need to know they're thanked. No matter what your job, if
Yeah.
you were a truck driver, cook, fly, whatever.
So, and a lot of these veterans never had a homecoming, never were really properly welcomed home, were now, did not have the pomp and circumstance of the celebration of, mission complete or whatever the case is.
Correct.
Let's jump ahead to they're selected. I know it's a selection process for them to get nominated or whatever else to get onto uh, be picked on the honor flight. Talk about what they see and what they're like when they come back and get off that airplane.
Well, it's incredible because, as you say, the selection, we have a specific order: World War II, Korea, Vietnam, then Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghan veterans. And these gentlemen, we start out early, 6:30 in the morning. We usually around the time frame we leave the Charlotte airport, flying to D.C. We fly into Reagan. When we get to Reagan, it's pretty quiet going up
Right.
on the flight, because guys are still wondering what exactly is going to be transpiring here.
They don't know each other.
Right, they don't
Yeah.
know each other, and each veteran has a guardian assigned to them, and we provide the wheelchairs, anything. If a guardian needs to be pushed in a wheelchair, that guardian pushes him everywhere he needs to go.
Right.
If he needs to
Him
follow,
and her.
right, him or her, a lot of these veterans, they'll have a son or a daughter go.
Right.
Normally, we don't really like spouses because the spouses are usually a little older and so on, so we want someone that can
Yeah.
really able-bodied to take care of them. That means if they need a bottle of water, they're supposed to get that and so on. But, we give them a little snack in the morning at the airport before we leave, and we get to Reagan International Airport in D.C., and we get off the plane. We're coming into the area. There's a crowd. The West Point, there is actually, former officers that most of them look like they're in their 50s and 60s. They're chorus. They're singing all the military branch songs as you're coming in. The crowd is there waiting, so it's a pretty good sized crowd welcoming these fellows as they come through. Then we have 4 buses. And normally the first location we go to is Arlington National Cemetery. And it's so unique because the fellows that get there, and that's when they start finding out that they are appreciated. Because when they come through the airport, that's the first time for a lot of these fellows that they have actually, somebody's really, really thanking them for what they've done. Because the Vietnam veterans just felt like, and the Korean veterans,
Right.
that, what they did was it right?
Yeah.
But they find out, yes, you are truly appreciated. But we get to Arlington and we do the wreath laying ceremony there. In the last 2 years, what we did, what is wonderful is we have 2 wheelchairs. We have 2 of the veterans that are in wheelchairs, myself and an Afghan veteran. We push them to the monument, and we salute and so on. It's really beautiful.
What do you get? What type of feedback do you get back from some of these veterans who have never had any type of official welcome home or any type of celebration for themselves by their families or units, whatever the case is? They go on an honor flight. They come back probably mentally drained. What's the feedback you get from them?
Oh, it's incredible. There's tears in their eyes. I mean, they're so appreciative of what has been done for them that day. I mean, it's such a busy day. And coming back on the flight to even show more appreciation, we have mail call. That is where every veteran on that flight receives mail from children, from anywhere from high school all the way down to elementary. They do make up cards, give to these veterans, letters, appreciation, things of that sort is given to each veteran. And they don't know that's going to happen. That's so appreciative. But when we get back to Charlotte, what's so beautiful about Charlotte, and we unload in order, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, so on, so on.
Right.
That's how you leave the plane. And they walk into that concourse.
Right.
There's seriously, so probably 2,000 people.
Mhm.
This is a lot of them are the families of the veterans. They can sign up to be there welcoming these veterans when they come back.
And get past security to get
Right.
all the way to
Well,
the
we
gate.
don't worry about the security. Yeah, they have to go on to the website
Right.
and sign up to be at the airport when the flight returns, so they can get through security without going through all the hassle. But they do have to register
Right.
to be there for the welcoming. But you'll see in the video, there's guys just crying. Some of them can't even hardly talk because I mean these people are cheering, bagpipes, flags everywhere, and people just welcoming these gentlemen and ladies too.
So you've got over 100 veterans
Yes.
that are part of the honor flight that are actually experiencing this. How many applications? How many submissions do you get from people?
That we've got a waiting list. It's incredible, the list. And like I said, we do the specific order.
Mm-hmm.
At one time we were trying to make sure it was people that were in country in
Mm-hmm.
like Vietnam, Korea, so on and so on, World War II, and basically try to get the combat veterans. Now, if you were a veteran, please sign up for this. No matter where you were stationed, you deserve this. You did your part for your country. As I stated a little earlier, no matter what your job was, you were a truck
Right.
driver, you were a supply, you were a clerk. Doesn't matter. You had a job assignment. You did that job. You did it well. You deserve to have to go on this flight.
You've got just over 100 people uh, experiencing this. I mean, I'm I'm speechless anyway because of the emotion that it draws from all of us. But truly, how many? I mean, it's got to be so many more, if not hundreds of other people who are trying to sign up. How great would that be to have a second flight throughout the year again?
Oh, it would be wonderful. And as you may not know, this is totally it, it's paid for.
Yeah.
Everything for the veterans paid for.
Right.
The the people taking care of the veterans, their part has to be paid for.
Right.
This flight cost over $100,000 per flight.
Wow.
So we're looking for donations from companies, from individuals, anyone. Please, if you're willing to just $10, $100 doesn't matter. Everything is so greatly appreciated to pay for this flight.
What's the website?
QueenCityHonorFlight.org.
Okay.
QueenCityHonorFlight.org.
And there you will find where to sign or how to sign up, where you can all about the trip and everything.
Yes.
Um, what else should families of veterans be thinking about when they discover this and realize that their loved one could, be a veteran that will be honored on this flight?
Well, I'm hoping the younger ones talk to their family member that's a veteran, especially if they're Vietnam and Korea. World War II, as you know, the numbers, we're losing them every
Dwindling
day.
every day.
Just for a good example, last year's honor flight, we did not have a single World War II veteran. We've got some we're wanting to go. I think we've got going to have a few this year.
Right.
We've always had some on each flight, but the numbers are dwindling. And if you're a family person and you've got someone in your family that's a member of your family that is a veteran, please go to the Queen City Honor Flight and look at it. Talk to this person. They deserve this.
And if they're selected, this is free for them.
This is free for the veteran. No cost to the veteran whatsoever.
Mike, thanks so much for coming on again. Do you have any other anything else you'd like to share about the honor flight?
Well, I do have some quick talking points I'd like to go over about the
Absolutely.
Queen City Honor Flight. Basically, what we're doing is honoring our veterans, preserving their legacy, letting people know what they did. So many people, even family members, don't really know what their family member did in the military. They don't talk about it. And our mission is to provide an all-expenses-paid trip to Washington, D.C. for veterans to visit the memorials built in their honor. Many of these veterans, especially from Vietnam, Korea, and World War II, never received the recognition they deserved. This was formed in 2017 as a Rotary project along with the Honor Air Honor Flight Network. We're a local Charlotte hub of over 120 independent nonprofit hubs in America that make up the National Honor Flight Network. We charter with American Airlines for a one-day trip up to Washington, D.C., 189 seats on the plane, and normally over 120 veterans, like 50 guardians, and then volunteer staff there. We serve veterans across the Queen City Honor Flight serves veterans across 22 North Carolina counties, including Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, Gaston, Union, Iredell, Rowan, and surrounding communities. Veterans do not have to be combat veterans, but must have a DD-214 to prove that you were in the service, an honorable discharge from service. All veterans are encouraged to apply. However, priority is given to World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and terminally ill veterans. If you're a young veteran and cancer or anything, we will make sure you get on this next flight. Guardians accompany the veterans to ensure their safety throughout the day. They can be family members, but we prefer not spouses or significant others.
Right.
And there is a cost for the guardians, but the need right now, we know there are thousands of eligible veterans in our area that don't know about this flight. We want to get the word out to them. There's so many that are unaware of the opportunity that exists for them. The impact that this does to a veteran is a life-changing experience for veterans. The emotional healing and recognition they receive, strong community visibility, letting the community know. A lot of people don't realize North Carolina is one of the largest veteran states in the country.
Right.
It's powerful stories that resonate with employees and customers when they find out about these veterans. Some of the people who employ these people don't even know what they've done. So we want to get the word out. Please, if you're a veteran or if you're a family member, you have a veteran in your family, please talk to that veteran. Please go to queencityhonorflight.org, register.
Mike, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for continuing to serve in this capacity, to share something that's so important for veterans and for families and for those who never were really given that welcome home to have that opportunity today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been watching Stars of Service. Thank you so much for watching.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.